Hi guys, Patrik here from Desert Barbell with Generation Strong. We're gonna look through how to use the equipment for the upcoming Powermeet. We're gonna show you how it's done to work with your sleeves, the wrist straps, and how to best utilize a belt. Okay, and first up is the knee sleeves, and there are often questions about the knee sleeve which are approved and not. In our meet now here for the Powermeet, pretty much all sleeves are approved. It's just a matter of they not being too thick, so the thickest one that we allow is 7 millimeters, but everything up to that, and to be honest, all the different sleeves on the market is pretty much allowed. This is just two examples of them, just as long as it's not wraps. That's the whole thing. Okay, so if you use a rebound one or a not so compressing one, this is how you put them on. Is just put them on over your foot and pull them up like that. Easy, no problem. You don't have to twist or turn them or anything. Okay, so we have an example here of a little bit rougher or a little bit stiffer sleeve. In the example here we have SBD one, but it can be all kinds of brands. I know that High Life Power has one looking pretty much like this. There are Titan sleeves, there are strong sleeves, and a little bit whatever. The most efficient way of putting these ones on is actually putting them on a little bit like that in reverse. You have to take that, put that one over your foot like that, and then grab a hold of the lower part like that and just pull them up over your knee, fold them up and fold that one down. This is because this sleeve is a little bit too stiff to just pull up on your lower leg like that. So next up is the wrist straps. These comes in different lengths and different stiffness. This is a medium long and a medium flexi one. Alright, so the thing that we want to think about when we wrap a wrist strap is don't just wrap it around your wrist like that totally stiff. It doesn't make really anything. It just compress kind of the blood flow to your hand. What you want to do is have the wrap fairly high up, so the first lap is actually above the wrist like that, and then you do the second lap down below, so you actually get a little bit more coverage there, and it's actually above the actual wrist joint. What you don't want to do is over exaggerate that by having the wrap all the way like down your arm like that, because that's not allowed either. It's very uncomfortable to say the least also. So start up here, do second lap there, and off we go. And some people want to use the thumb loop. I personally cut it always away because I just find it a trouble having it here, because you cannot have that on you while you lift anyway. So I just hold on to it and then let it go. Fold it like that. And off we go. Okay, so close up on how it looks with the wrist wrap. So instead of the loop, I hold the wrap like that, up over the wrist, and do a second lap under. Then I just fold that one up. So the thumb loop, to be honest, is totally unnecessary. Alright, so next up is the belts, and there are different kind of belts. You have a lever belt like that, or we have prong belts like that, and it all comes down to taste here. I personally think that these prong belts are best for me, so but that's all up to you guys which one you prefer. There are different kind of belts, but mainly the powerlifting belts are about 10-ish centimeters wide and about like a centimeter or a little bit more thick. In this competition for the Powermeet, we will allow all kinds of belts. We're not going to be that fuzzy. But for a real competition or an approved one by any federation, there are some guidelines that needs to be followed. But as long as it's a belt, we will pretty much allow it. Okay, and when it comes to the position of the belt, this comes also down to a little bit of individual taste. But I will go through how I use it, and let's see if that applies to you guys. Okay, so for the squat, I usually have the belt kind of like, if we call it medium high, kind of like in the middle of your gut and your stomach right there, in order to be able to brace with the belt or with the stomach out towards the belt. And important here is not to have it too tight, because if you have it too tight, it feels like you're almost getting like stuffed by it and you fold over the belt. So don't have it too tight. When it comes to the bench, if you use belt where you bench, which I'll say like 50-50 do, or even less maybe, then the belt is worn often a little bit even less tight and lower down. So you can kind of have, if you have any belt to press up with, it will be over the belt. So the belt is a little bit lower down. Just to create a little bit of stability over the pelvis region. And some people, including me, think that it gives you like a little bit of extra comfort and extra support around the midsection. When it comes to the deadlift, there are quite a few variations. And quite often people have the belt very, very high, and sometimes really, really, really high. But I would say for the average lifter, it's a little bit higher than the squat and quite a lot higher than in the bench, which will be for me somewhere around here, just below the rib cage. Be a little bit concerned and be a little bit make sure that you don't have it too high when you do deadlift, because if you have it up on your rib cage and you're a little bit unused to it, you can easily like crack a rib or something like that when it becomes heavy. But usually a little bit higher than the squat, and also a little bit even less tense than when you have the squats. So you get room for really pushing out, because this one you really need to brace, and you don't have the benefit on a squat, and you have a little concentric loading and you can accumulate power there in your midsection. So a little bit higher. And there are examples that people quite frankly have the belt up here. That's very much for the thoracic spine comfort. But I will, for the average lifter or the beginner, will not recommend that at all. So it's going to be just higher than for the squat. Alright, when it comes to the deadlift, the rules actually stipulate you need to have something on your feet. I know a lot of you guys, including me, we do a lot of deadlift without anything on our feet at all, or probably wearing socks. For that purpose, there are deadlift slippers, which is very thin. It's kind of like one of those anti-slippery things we had when we were kids. And that works just fine if you can find big enough ones. But otherwise we have made these deadlift slippers that are solely for this purpose, which is very, very slim. And we can also use a very common shoe for this is just the straight up Converse shoe like that, because it's very, very slim and it's very, very close to the ground. But just remember that the rule stipulates you need to have something on your feet when you deadlift, and you cannot have only socks. And another thing is that I would recommend not using, if you have a conventional lifting shoe like an Adidas or Reebok or a Nike with high heel, do not use them when you do deadlift, because then you have the forward tilted foot, and also you have a little bit longer range of motion when you pull. So slippers or very, very slim shoes. Okay, and then two things that people also need to remember. First one is socks, high socks, especially for the deadlift or the deadlift, because it needs to cover the shin if you have the bar going towards the chin, so you don't have blood on the bar. So please remember that, but it's only for the deadlift. For the squat and the bench press you can have whatever kind of sock you like. But of course, most easy is of course if you have the same sock for the whole competition. But just remember that for the deadlift it has to be up towards the edge of your knee. Don't over the knee, but up to your knee. Right, and then the infamous singlet that people tend to worry about just because you can, because you see all the shapes you got on your body. I don't know why. So it's important for the referees first and foremost, so they can see like your whole body when you do squats, see the depth there, and also when you bench, so you can actually see that your bum doesn't elevate from the bench when you press. So it's pretty much it's an item just to help the referees. Yeah, and to finish off, a little bit of tip when it comes especially the sleeves, because as we spoke about, or as I spoke about before, the sleeves are often like one of the questions that people have. Do not have a too tight sleeve, especially if you have the more thicker one, the SPD one, or the bigger of the high life power or the strong sleeves, because there's no use. I mean, to be honest, there's not much recoil in these. It's just compression around the knee joint, and if you have a too too slim one or too tight one, you will struggle to get it over your calf or over your ankle. So please be advised to check on the recommendations for a sleeve that you can find online on pretty much all the stores that sell them, or use an old-fashioned one if you just pull off, because there's no point in having it as kind of like a thing that you need to worry about how to get your sleeve on and off. So that's I think that's consider that, please. Alright, so this is Patrik from Desert Barbell saying bye bye, and I hope to see you at the Powermeet. If there's any questions, subscribe to our Instagram on Desert Barbell and put questions there on direct message, and we'll try to reply as soon as possible.